I mean, we had officers, and numerous officers, not just myself, but pretty much every day an officer would be given a, as time permits, we need you to check these vehicles and see. Now a lot of them we can eliminate right off the bat. You pull up and it's an S10. Well, we know we're not looking for an S10, so we would just glance at it and be on our way. Or you pull up and the vehicle is the type of vehicle, but there's absolutely no damage, and it doesn't look like a new front grille in it.
I was just asking, I think you were gone when I was asking about a database that the vehicles were put into that.
To my knowledge, there wasn't.
There wasn't a database. It was, of course, 1999, but a lot of what it was is these lists of vehicles with the registration plate number and an address were distributed to all the patrol officers at one time, and then it kept whittling down. But you would check the vehicle and then turn your list in to the shift commander at the end of your tour of duty. And my understanding is the shift commander would grab all the lists from his shift, and then those would ultimately be turned over to Lieutenant Bushman.
So then all those vehicles should be in here, and with what you've got, not necessarily.
We don't have the list.
We don't have the list of the vehicles that were
in this file that I have. I do not have the list.
Okay. That was 14,820 vehicles, if I remember correctly, that were investigated.
It was a bunch of vehicles. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but I know it was a lot. I mean, sometimes they were sending us to. I think one time I went to Fond du Lac to try and track down a vehicle. A couple times I was at Neenah. I know Lieutenant Bushman was up north a couple times.
I remember him saying he even went down to Illinois, if I'm not mistaken.
And he very well may have. It was a lot of vehicles. Remember when we talked on the phone? Shortly after Lieutenant Bushman retired, he worked here part-time. I met up with him here at the department, and I said to him, I'm continuing to look into this case report. I'll need you as a resource, information resource, if at all possible. And he said, yes, absolutely. If you have any questions or anything, you feel free to contact me. And then he is the one that said, with all the vehicles that we checked, he goes, I have got a overwhelming suspicion, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember his exact words, but he was strongly leaning towards this having been perhaps somebody that was in the country illegally, striking your son, knowing the trouble he was going to be in, and looking at shore deportation once he was through with whatever sentence was handed out to him, and then just left the country, probably with the vehicle. Are we saying 100% that is the case? Absolutely not. But I have never seen a case like this where someone didn't come forward and say, this person told me that they did it.
Or I saw a vehicle. It's odd.
It has never ever happened. We've had tips where people have had suspicions about this person or that person.
Now, I've also heard, and quite a bit, Todd and Rob Herrmann.
Well, at the time of this accident, this crash, this tragedy. I believe the sheriff was a deputy inspector at the time, or a lieutenant, one of the two. A lieutenant. I believe he was interviewed by the undersheriff at the time, who later became the sheriff, Ken Peterson. The sheriff could substantiate his whereabouts beyond a doubt. As far as Todd Herrmann, who is still here, neither one of those guys has retired. I had never heard his name come up before now, I don't believe. Whoever did this obviously has been able to harbor that guilt since 1999. He has never come forward, never shared this with anyone, or if he has shared it with someone, that person also has not felt compelled to give the information to law enforcement. So we have nothing to go at. Now we're asking someone in 2016, where were you in January 1999? And who were you with? I necessarily could not answer that question. Eventually we'll get a tip, or somebody will give us credible information that we can follow up on, and then go interview him and say, let's just say he left Colborn that night. Let's say he had been a cop's employee, so he signed into the party. So then we can interview him and say, were you at this party at Club Billmar? No, I wasn't. Then you slide the log across. How can you explain that your name is on there? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If that log even exists. I'm just trying to put it in some sort of perspective. Right. To go and grab anyone off, I don't care if they said anybody, to just go grab them off the street. One, we're treading a fine line of harassment there, because you're accusing someone of killing someone. Another good suspect is, do you remember there was a gentleman, his last name was Kugel. He ran a taxi cab company and a used car lot. It's on CR, just barely out of the city there. It's vacant right now. Okay. You know where I mean? Mm-hmm. Right next to the old Travelers. Or no, there's another car replace, but it's in close proximity to the old Travelers motel. Okay, yeah. He was a odd duck, and I know he was interviewed. He denied any involvement. He's since passed away. He would be the kind of person probably that could have took it to the grave with him, took that secret to the grave. He wasn't married. He had a son that was in trouble all the time. Very little contact. He had very few close friends, and the friends that he did have, he kept at arm's length kind of guy. Very wrapped up in his business. He would sleep down there, a very paranoid kind of guy. That is the only person that I could think of. And he wasn't from Manitowoc, so a lot of people didn't know him here. He was from a different area and moved here. He was the only one that I thought of that could possibly have never mentioned it to anyone, because who would he mention it to? Right. Right. Because if the person walked in right now and broke down and said, I am so sorry, I had a few too many, I didn't see Rick and until it was too late. God, yes, I know I should have stopped, but I knew I'd been drinking. I knew that what I did was wrong, and I got scared and I went home. We could charge him, but it would be a difficult case for the district attorney to prosecute, and it may be beyond the statute of limitations on that particular crime. But you and I discussed, if he came in here and said, I had an axe to grind with Rick, and I knew Rick was walking home that night, and by God, I waited for him. That is totally different. There is no statute of limitations on that. But if it was truly if this tragedy was accidental,
And I believe that.
the person would probably add years to their life by coming forward and telling us and getting that off their conscience.
But what I've stated for the last few years and this year, I don't care about the judicial system anymore. I don't care if the person's prosecuted. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Even if it's anonymously, just
Right.
let me know.
And that's the most surprising part, is right there. Anybody, whoever was responsible, could have reached out anonymously and said, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's never happened, has it? It's not. I know it's never happened. You know, sometimes people like notoriety. They'll confess to something out of the clear blue sky that they didn't do, and then subsequently you quickly find out that they're not connected with it. We have never even had a crank call like that, ever.
Nothing.
Nothing.
We put up that website and hoping that somebody would come forward on that. You know, I've made numerous pleas through the newspaper and through the media.
Yeah.
Apparently it was on Channel 11 News today. It was on WOMT, and it's just basically a plea. This person come forward and at least talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not, if they want to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. Just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not going to bring them back.
Right.
And them spending the rest of their lives in prison isn't my agenda.
Right.
And like I said, the odds of that are slim to none, and that's put out there already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they know
Mhm.
that.